Are you ready to unlock your full leadership potential and take that leap towards your success? Stay tuned, because today we're going to dive deep into those secrets that will help transform your leadership journey. Hey, welcome to the Legacy Leadership Lounge. I'm Miles Threat, and I help ambitious leaders just like you who want to build a lasting legacy. Whether you're trying to climb that corporate ladder right now, maybe you got a big dream to launch your own nonprofit, or you're just dying to kickstart your own entrepreneurial journey. Well, today's episode is going to be packed with some practical tips and some disciplined habits that will help you get that breakthrough that you really need right now. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And do me a favor, hit that bell icon so you can tune in to every episode in the future. Thank you for joining me today. As we dive into this topic of unleashing our leadership potential, there are a couple things I want to make sure we cover during our time together. We're going to look at the importance of embracing feedback. What disciplined habits do we need to develop? How can we foster authentic relationships in this process? And how do we need to innovate and take some risks? So our first main point is embracing feedback. And feedback is one of those things that you need to seek and you should ask for. You should be asking for consistent feedback from those people that you work closely with, those people that you lead, those people that you collaborate with, those people that you work alongside of, or maybe you're partnering with in some way right now. You need to get their feedback on your leadership and leadership style. For you to unleash your full leadership potential, you're going to have to embrace feedback. And feedback is not only something you need to ask for, it's also something that you need to create a culture of feedback. And whether it's your nonprofit, whether it's your entrepreneurial dream that you have right now, or whether it's in your corporate space with your team, you need to make feedback a two-way street and be willing to give it and willing to receive it. And if you're a leader and you're in that situation right now and you want to see engagement improved, then you got to create that feedback culture within your team, within your organization, within the business that you're building. You're trying to drive that nonprofit and you want to get more volunteers. You want to grow your donor base. You want to increase the impact that you're going to be making in the community and areas that you're working. Then you're going to have to create some feedback tools for yourself so that you can know how is it that you can make a greater impact. How can you be a better leader? What is it about yourself right now that needs to change to improve in this situation so that you can unleash that next level of potential that is within inside of you, but for some reason it's just not coming out right now and you're the one that's holding it back. So if you want to build that feedback culture, you have to start it, and you have to start it by first getting it from your peers, asking for it. And you need to listen. No excuses. Listen to the feedback. Take it for what it is. Evaluate it. Learn from it. Make those changes and adjustments that you see that you need to make. And I've worked with a bunch of different leaders across the board, whether it's in the nonprofit world, whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's with entrepreneurs. And I've worked with some where everybody in the room gave them the same feedback and they were not willing to receive it. They didn't believe it about themselves. Everybody else saw it, but they didn't see it. If you can't see it and you're not willing to accept it, there's no chance at this point in time, until you do, that you're going to be able to unleash your full potential. You're going to be stuck right where you're at. So if everybody in the room's saying it, you better take it to heart. You better do some evaluation. You better be thinking about what changes can I make to improve on this area right now so that I can unleash my full potential. Besides your peers, get feedback from your mentors, get feedback from your team members, your colleagues, people that you interact with on a regular basis, and take it and receive it and listen to it and make those incremental changes. It will improve your leadership. It will improve your future. When you're giving feedback to others, make sure it is constructive. Help them see the benefits that they bring to you, to the team, to the work. Help them see what value they add, but help them understand what are the small improvements that you see that they need to make. And if you're a leader and you're leading a team, if you haven't clearly defined your expectations and people aren't measuring up to those expectations, if you haven't defined them, you are the problem. You need to define them and clearly explain them. And then if they ain't measuring up, help them understand what is the metric and how do they get there? What does it mean to even get there? Spell it out for them. But if you set the expectation and they're not getting that, reaching that expectation, you need to clearly define to them where they're missing the mark and how that they can improve. And then give them some help along the way. What will help them meet that expectation? And if you're giving them that constructive feedback and you're not putting things in place to help them reach that target that you set or that change that you're looking for them to make, then you're doing them a disservice. So make sure you're building that into there as you provide that constructive feedback. One of the best things that you can do for yourself, your team members, as you build that business, as you kickstart or start your nonprofit or grow your nonprofit, you create a culture of feedback within your team, within your organization, within your business. You create it. You live it. You practice it. You make sure you receive it and make the necessary changes that you need to make and be consistent about how you give it across the board. And if you create that feedback mechanism for yourself, you're going to be able to unleash your leadership and the leadership of others around you, because everybody involved is hearing, receiving, and taking it into thought and then making the adjustments and changes that they need to make to accomplish the goals that you are all striving to accomplish together. That is when you unleash your leadership potential. So after you embrace feedback and create that feedback culture, second thing you need to do is develop some disciplined habits. Marshall Goldsmith, in his book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, says that the habits that you've developed over time to help you get where you are at today, those same habits won't necessarily take you to that next level. And you may have been consistent. You may be worked hard, and you probably have some really good habits. Great. If you're feeling stuck in any way right now, and one huge thing that we've seen over the past few years is that a lot of the best practices that we used to know and practice and use and think that work in business and the nonprofit world and life in general, they're just not working the same anymore. And so some of those good habits that you put into place are not going to be the habits that get you to that next level. But there are a few habits that Goldsmith recommends in his book that I want to point out that I think are going to be a game changer for you right now. The first habit I think you really ought to focus on is listening more and talking less. And along with that listening is listening without being judgmental. So if you think you've been a good listener to this point, then reevaluate. Just shut up in general and listen for a change. What are you hearing? What's being repeated over and over again? What are you hearing in that tone and intonation? What are you hearing from that body language? Pay attention to those things. Try to foster better communication and collaboration and understand where people are coming from their perspective. And as you're listening, just don't be so judgmental. You see, if you're going to foster open and honest communication, you got to be able to receive it as it comes out. And if they call you an ass, just take it for what it means. Or maybe they just think you got an asinine idea and it's a stupid idea, and they say so. It's those cultures where you're able to be that transparent. I'm not against being respectful, okay? I've worked cross-culturally. I know the importance of being respect and hierarchy and understand all that. But I'm also talking in today's setting where people value transparency and honesty and they value authenticity. Then you need to foster those situations where people can be free enough to speak their mind. Don't overreact to it. Listen, hear what they're saying, be thoughtful about it, and take time to respond in a thoughtful manner. The next habit is avoid making excuses for yourself. If you're wrong, admit it. If you failed, admit it. If you made a mistake, admit it. Stop making excuses. Just give them up altogether. You want to build transparency and honesty? You want to develop a new habit for yourself? Then just stop making excuses. It's my fault. I screwed up. Yeah, I forgot to do that. Yeah, I probably should have thought a little more carefully about that before I made that decision. You know, we really screwed up as a leadership board on our whole decision about that. And that's our fault. And maybe you should think about not taking that damn bonus in the first place and giving it to the people who deserve it. Just take that to heart if you're listening out there. You see, if it's your fault, don't make everybody else pay for it. Final one I'll talk about is, and this is really important, especially those people in the corporate world right now, let go of winning. You don't need to win. You're playing on a whole team. You're a nonprofit leader out there. You don't have to win. Your whole team and organization needs to win. You're an entrepreneur out there and you're working really hard. You putting a lot of extra work in there and you got some people working for you. And I know you want to win, but you ain't got to win at their expense. You are a team. You're building a team. Doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur trying to start your dream business or you're passionate about your nonprofit making social impact in your community. I know you want to win, but you don't win at the expense of those people on your team, those people around you. The reality is your only competition is yourself. So give up that habit of wanting to win at the cost of your team, your colleagues, your partners, the people around you. Now, you want to implement some of these things, then you got to start creating new habits for yourself. Just like you created habits to get you where you are today, whether you had a certain habit of planning, you had a certain habit of reflection, you had a certain habit of self-improvement, you're going to have to establish new routines for you to become a better listener. You're going to have to get in the habit of asking better, open-ended questions. You're going to have to get in the habit of thinking and reflecting about what people are saying. You have to create those habits for yourself, just like you got to create the habit of creating a team atmosphere and where the team wins. It's not just one person. You can implement tools and trainings, and you can bring in experts to either help you or help your team in these areas and utilize those things for you to make the adjustments that you need to make. And maybe you need their help to create a new routine about this, or a new mindset for yourself, and work through that and process that. That is what a good coach will do for you. And even if you go through all those steps, the only way you're going to maintain momentum is by force. And that means you're going to have to make yourself. You're going to have to be disciplined. You're going to have to create that structured system for yourself where you consistently practice those new habits that you're developing. And the reason I say force is because there are going to be days you don't want to do it. You don't feel like it. You're tired. Maybe you're not seeing the results you want to see, but you got to keep doing it right now. You got to create it. That habit becomes automatic for yourself. And you got to structure those things around it that make it easy for you to implement that habit for yourself. And that is something a good coach will be able to do for you. So we just looked at developing some disciplined habits, creating that forceful momentum for ourselves. Point 3 is fostering authentic relationships. A study by Harvard Business Review found that authentic leaders are more effective and inspire greater loyalty. For you to foster those authentic relationships, it starts with transparency and honesty. Being transparent and honest with your team. I don't know how safe you feel about being transparent and honest about where you are with certain levels of your work, or with your team as far as results are concerned, or with your business as far as your revenue and results are concerned, with people on your team inside your business, or how transparent you feel safe being with your donors or your volunteers. But I can tell you, working in a nonprofit world, man, the more transparent and honest I was about the finances, about the needs for volunteers, gifts, giving, and things of that nature, the more people trusted us and the easier it was to get the volunteer support or the funds that we needed for our work and for our life, just to sustain our life in general. Yes. An example. One time we sent out a support letter. Yeah, email was around. We were using email communication, and we also did snail mail, but we moved to a house, rental house. That's all we could do in Thailand. We couldn't own property, anything like that. Rented a house, kitchen. Guess what was in the kitchen? A countertop and sink. That's it. No cabinetry, just a countertop and sink. No stove. We did have a stove. We had our own stove from the previous place. It's Thailand. They don't use stoves a lot. They use gas tops, but you could find stoves with gas top, the whole unit. We had that. This house just had a sink. You imagine going living in that house. Well, when we put that out there, we had one pastor from one church read that letter and couldn't imagine what it would be like for him and his family to move into a house with a kitchen and nothing but a sink, no cabinetry. And we were just asking for a little bit of money, put some cabinets in the place. We wasn't even going to have anything majorly, I would say, nice, not like handmade out of wood. We were just going to get by with what we could find locally, if it's prefabbed or whatever, that would work. Didn't matter to us at that point. But because of our transparency and honesty, this pastor decided to tell his whole congregation and just did the same thing. Ladies, imagine having a kitchen without cabinets. What would you do? Husbands, imagine you going into a home and your wife doesn't have any cabinets in her kitchen. What are you going to... And they raised all the money for us. Now, I don't know where you need to be honest and transparent with your business and your results and your KPIs and what's happening and the bottom line and the revenue, but be transparent with your people. And when you're being transparent and honest with people, be super empathetic. Put yourself in their shoes. In a previous corporate role that I had as a leader, one of my team members at the time was a single mom with one special needs kid and another kid at home in school. All right. So I had children. I have 3 children. At that point in time in my life, I just went through a divorce and I was a single parent. I had one child in high school, middle school, somewhere in there, still at home. Two off in college. Two off in college at that point in time. I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about raising a special needs kid. But I also knew being a single parent, one kid at home that's fully healthy, fully functional, can do everything for themselves, they don't do, it's hard enough. So could I fully put myself in that person's shoes? No. But did I understand? Could I? In some way, shape, or form? Yes. Did that mean I was more empathetic? Yes. I was, because the more I understood her and her child's needs, the more empathetic I could be. So when you're dealing with those people in their situations, put yourself in your shoes for a moment. What would it be like for you if you were having to deal with that right now? Have you ever had anything to deal with that in your life? Similar or not, understand as close as you can the situation and what they're dealing with, and put yourself in that situation. And how would you want to be treated? How would you want to be led? You want to unleash your leadership potential? Then you put yourself in their shoes. Show more empathy. Final thing is, invest your most valuable resource, your time, into building trust with the people you're working with. Doesn't matter whether they're donors, whether they're volunteers in your nonprofit, doesn't matter if it's your team in the corporate world or colleagues around you, doesn't matter if it's people you're hiring to help you run your business as an entrepreneur. Invest time into them, whether it's taking them out to lunch, whether it's doing an event together outside of work, whether it's having them in your home, whether it's just doing some simple fun activities as you're working together and you're making work fun. Do those things. Make sure you're meeting with them one-on-one on a regular basis. And in those meetings, you're creating opportunities to build trust. See, that trust and those opportunities and those experiences you create are going to create rapport with them. And that rapport with them is going to create a loyalty that you're looking for at the same time. So we just covered fostering authentic relationships. The fourth and final point is innovation and taking risks. When you're thinking about innovation and taking a risk, I want you to borrow something from Google. Google in the past, I don't know if they do it now or not, all right, but Google had a 20% time policy where their employees or team members could spend 20% of their work time on innovative projects that interest them, and it led to several of their most successful products. Why do you think that happened like that? If you let people invest their time into the things that they're interested in, that's part of their purpose, falls in line with their passion, what do you think happens? How do they feel about working in an environment like that? One, they're going to feel a lot of trust. They're going to feel a lot of freedom. They're going to feel very productive because they're able to do some of the things that they're excited about, they're interested in. And it's those experiences that allow them to think creatively and give them that creative outlet, and it allows them a chance to experiment with their ideas and experiment in a situation that, if it doesn't necessarily work out, it's not a high pressured situation for themselves. They get to practice and implement those things and see if they work in that environment, and then they can go from there to see if they work in a broader environment later on. But it allows for that creativity. If you are a command and control leader, first of all, you're probably not going to do this. Let's just face it. If you're a command and control leader, then just stay where you're at, keep commanding and controlling what you're commanding and controlling, and I promise you, you're not going to unleash your potential or anybody else's potential. You're screwed. You screwed yourself. But if you want to unscrew yourself and set some people free, allow them to express their creativity on some of those projects. Maybe they're projects you come with, maybe they're projects that they've recommended to you and they felt safe to come to you and share those ideas with you, but you give them the time to work on it and to do it and to practice it. And while they're doing that or you're doing that, don't be afraid to challenge the status quo in your industry right now. Where does it need to change? Where does it need to be challenged? And challenge it in those areas. And let some of those creative thinkers that you have out there that are kind of out there on the edge just a little bit, maybe probably very different than you. And that's what you need right now, is someone very different from you. And you need to turn them loose in that status quo area to bring about that change that you need to see right now. And just don't be afraid to try that new approach. Create create that environment where they can test that idea and try that new approach. Finally, learn from your failures. Earlier I talked about in habits, not being afraid to admit your mistakes. If you're an ambitious leader and you're trying to build that lasting legacy, you're going to make mistakes because you're going to be willing to take some risk. Those people that are risk averse, you're really going to stagnate. You got to be willing to take that risk. And to take that risk, you got to be willing to learn from your failures. You're going to make some mistakes. But even when you do make those mistakes, you learn from those failures and you look at them as that is the next stepping stone that's getting you closer to your mark. Now, that doesn't mean you have to make mistakes, okay? It means you may make mistakes, and when you do make mistakes, you learn from them and you avoid making that same mistake again. You take it to the next level. I've heard people say at times, there's a lot of millionaires out there who've gotten bankrupted along the way, and they did it because they were willing to take risk. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean when you take risks, you got to go bankrupt or you got to experience that to have real success. You got to have some failures to have some success. Well, it doesn't mean you have to go to all the way to bankruptcy or anything like that, but it does mean you need to be willing to take that risk. You don't have to make the same mistakes that some other people have made. You don't necessarily have to make the mistake. Probably going to make some, but you can learn from other people's mistakes as well, and you can make those steps. And there's some good people out there who've created some great ideas, and they're giving you the steps to avoid the pitfalls and mistakes that they made along the way, and you should listen to them. But as you take the steps that you feel called to take right now, if you make a mistake along the way, don't beat yourself up. Learn from it, get back up, and just don't repeat it. Your past doesn't define your future. You are defining your future by what you do today. So learn from your failures and keep moving forward. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode of Legacy Leaders Lounge. Today we discovered the importance of embracing feedback, developing some disciplined habits, fostering authentic relationships, and innovation and taking risks. These are your essential elements for you to unleash your leadership potential today. If you are serious about taking that next level, I have an assessment in the description below to help you assess if you're ready to unleash your leadership potential. Take the time to complete that assessment today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so I can help you turn your leadership dreams into reality. Thank you for joining me today.